Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above them.
This corrupt sheriff ignored the judge's ruling and broke bail laws, only to be caught and humiliated in court. And this is just the start, as we are about to see more corrupt officers get taken to the cleaners in the courtroom.
Date of birth?
12/18/70.
And that will make you how old?
52, sir.
And the last four digits, your social security number? Mr. Noel, Special Prosecutor Hurdle has charged you with 15 counts of criminal conduct. And I'll go through them. Count 1. Corrupt business influence is a level 5 felony. It would indicate that pursuant to Indiana Code 35-44-1.1-2-1, that on or about a period of time from November the 9th, 2018 and August the 16th, 2023 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally through a pattern of racketeering activity acquire or maintain either directly or indirectly an interest in or control of property or enterprise contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided. Count 2, theft as a level 5 felony. You then personally sold said Hellcat for $83,000. $83,716. Count 4, theft is a level 6 felony under Indiana Code 35-43-4-2A.
Numerous charges were also brought against Jamie Knoll's daughter, Casey, and his wife, Misty. It is truly remarkable to see how the sheriff was able to engage in such corruption and yet maintained his position in the agency for such a long time.
On or about August the 16th, 2023, in Clark County, state of Indiana, you did knowingly or intentionally alter, damage, or remove any record, document, or thing with the intent to prevent it from being used, produced as evidence in any official proceeding or investigation, that being you factory reset your phone upon the arrival of the Indiana State Police on your property. You, in your capacity as Clark County Sheriff, a public servant, did knowingly or intentionally assign to Rodney Walker, an employee under your supervision, duties that were not related to the operation of the governmental agency that you serve, that being sheriff. Assigned Walker duties on your personal property, rental properties, father-in-law's property, pole barn, property of the Utica Fire Department. Count 11 and count 15. Official misconduct is a level 6 felony. It would indicate that between November the 9th, 2018 and December the 31st, 2022 in Clark County, state of Indiana, you, a public servant, that being Sheriff of Clark County, knowingly or intentionally committed an offense in the performance of your official duties, that being goes to employment as Sheriff of Clark County relating to Brent Fisher. Mr. Knoll, the first 3 counts are level 5 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment from 1 year to 6 years, with the advisory sentence being 3 years and up to a $10,000 fine. Counts 4 through 15 are all level 6 felonies, which have a range of imprisonment of no time in jail if treated as a misdemeanor to 2.5 years at the Indiana Department of Corrections, with the advisory sentence being 1 year and up to a $10,000 fine. Do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the potential penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
The next question is usually you intend to hire a lawyer, but you obviously have counsel seated with you. I need to tell you, you have a right to a speedy public trial by jury in this county. You have the right to face all witnesses against you, severe question and cross-examine these witnesses.
Jamie sat through the proceedings with a complete lack of guilt as the judge systematically read out the 15 counts against him during the hearings. The tension was high in the courtroom as the state attorney made a strong case for his detention without bond. Despite the gravity of the charges, the judge decided to grant bail, but little did he know that this would turn out to be a serious mistake.
His passport to you by noon tomorrow, and then you will surrender it to the court by 4 p.m. next Monday, because it's my understanding the court here is closed tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
He will surrender all firearms except one shotgun of his choice to Indiana State Police. Being from the country, or as Mr. Wilder said, Washington County, I keep my shotgun with double lock near me, along with my .45, but I think one shotgun for personal protection is appropriate for him to maintain. Will not leave the state of Indiana without permission of the court, and they'll post $75,000 in cash. Mr. Knoll, you wanted him released without posting any bond, but it's a unique case, and if you don't like my decision, I'm happy for you to appeal it. It won't be the first time you've appealed me, and the Court of Appeals told you I was right, so I'm happy for you to accept that challenge if you so please. I'm not going to have you report in.
After delivering the announcements, the judge made one thing unmistakably clear, leaving no room for confusion or misunderstanding.
You keep one shotgun only. Try to deceive me, you will not like the consequences. Understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And then, Judge, the issue of return of all other items, see if we can just take them in another hearing.
Well, it wasn't set for today, so
No,
yeah, we'll deal with that at another time. I assume now that everything's going to be unsealed, there'll be a lot of new things brought before the court that
yes, sir.
we'll address in due time.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing else from us, Judge. Thank you.
All right, we'll be off record. Thank you all.
Although Jamie was first granted bail, however, his freedom was quite short-lived. When he violated the judge's order, police raided his residence in March and found a stash of hidden weapons. When the judge was called back for another court appearance, he was clearly outraged and did not hold back this time, delivering an uncompromising reprimand.
I told Mr. Knoll, don't do anything stupid. Do not try to deceive me, defy me. You will not like the consequences. Today is that day. You are not the law. You don't interpret the law. You don't enforce the law. You're not above the law. I find that you are in contempt of this court. Take him into custody. No, that's enough. I'll find you guys in contempt for disrupting the proceedings, and you'll be there right there with him.
Ironically, Jamie Knoll's appearance in A&E's 60 Days In, a series that exposes the inner workings of law enforcement, ended up on the wrong side of the court. During sentencing, the judge made an intentional point of mentioning his feature in the series, highlighting the sharp fall from grace of the former sheriff.
Now, what is an appropriate sanction? The question is, I can sentence him up to 180 days without a trial, or I can sentence him to a day, or I can release him. You know what I think the answer is? 60 days in. That's what I think the answer is today. Now, Mr. Wilder.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or Mr. Boyles, I apologize, Mr. Boyles, your lead. Before he is released, I'll take your suggestion. I want an independent individual to scour that household to determine that there's no further weapons. I find that Mr. Ertl's original argument that he was trying to make that I sustained, an officer of the law, every time I go into court, I hear, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know it was there. I really did. You've heard that a million times. You've heard it a million times, and yet you still take them into custody, would be my guess. Every officer in the world has heard, I didn't know it was there. It's my friends. I'm not buying it. It was your burden. It's your responsibility. And today, the court will enforce that. Take him away.
Even though Jamie Knoll received a 60-day term, his legal issues are far from over. He is currently facing 31 felony charges, and the outcome of his trial might mean a long jail term. Knoll's once powerful position has collapsed into an abrupt fall from grace, and he may spend years behind bars. Well, you will be shocked to hear what this next former supervisor of Border Patrol was facing charges for.
I received a call of a female down. She was face down, lots of blood. No, she was brutally attacked.
On April 9th, 2018, Ronald Anthony Burgos Aviles, a former supervisor of the Border Patrol, went on trial for the shocking and brutal murders of Griselda Hernandez and their 1-year-old son, Dominic Alexander.
That morning, more or less around 11:30 a.m., I received a call of a female down by Bristol and Riverbank Road, which is located in Mines Road, with lacerations to her head. While en route to that call, my dispatchers informed me that she was possibly deceased.
Okay. And did you proceed to that area?
Yes, sir. Upon arrival, the ambulance, the City of Laredo paramedics, the ambulance was already parked outside. I parked and I walked down to the trail.
Okay. Did you come in contact with anybody when you got there?
Yes, while on my way down, 2 paramedics were on the way up, and I asked them more or less, where is everybody? They said, follow the dirt trail and you'll see the body and you see the USBP agents down there.
Okay. Did you come in contact with a BP agent by the name of Dennison?
Yes, sir.
More than 20 witnesses, including family members, law enforcement officers, forensic experts, and close friends. Officer Alberto Cortez Jr. took to the stand to describe the horrifying scene he received about a woman down with lacerations on her head.
This is where BP units were stationed. 4 to 5 United States Border Patrol agents were located here. And a motionless, lifeless female body was about right here. She was facing eastbound. And upon me being a police officer, secured the crime scene, to look for any evidence, any clues, anything out of the ordinary. As I began to canvass the crime scene, in better words, I was walking around this grassy on the edge. There was one USBP agent, Agent Dennison, already ahead of me. He was already south. I passed the female body. I did look at her. I observed she was barefooted. She was face down. Lots of blood. Can you hear me? Yes, lots of blood around her upper middle torso on the dirt. And continuing my path southbound, I saw blood drops on the dirt. At this time, Agent Dennison said out loud, I found another body.
Okay. Stop right there.
Okay.
The incident occurred not far from Father McNaboe Park's walking paths off Bristol Road and close to the banks of the Rio Grande. Officer Cortez Jr. described the grim scenes when he discovered the body of the woman lying barefoot and covered in blood.
Is this the type of blood that you saw?
That is correct, sir.
You also said that there was, and you didn't walk on the, where were you walking? Let me ask you that, Dutch.
On the grass, where the grass and the dirt meet, right on that
So you stayed on the
boundary.
edge of the
Yes.
path. You did not disturb the dirt path.
No, sir.
Were you the first officer that arrived?
Yes, that is correct.
You were the first official Laredo police officer to arrive,
Yes.
and this location falls within your jurisdiction.
No. Each officer is assigned a certain area. I got dispatched to be there.
No, but what I'm saying, that's within the city limits.
Oh, yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, so this is within the city limits.
Yes.
What county is this?
Webb County.
So the body's in the city of Laredo and Webb County.
Yes.
Cortez recalled getting an urgent call from another officer at the scene shortly after he ensured that the scene remained uncontaminated. To his shock, the officer had discovered something completely horrifying, intensifying the gravity of the situation.
What was your impression of what had happened?
Any prudent person will see a lifeless, motionless body to come to the conclusion that she was deceased.
But at that time, the opinion as to how she was deceased based on what you're seeing, what you're assessing, are you making an assessment?
No, she was brutally attacked.
You also testified that he said that there was a body.
That is correct.
Okay. What happens at that point? Or
So-
what do you do at that point?
At that point, he was ahead of me, southbound. When I heard him say, "I found another body," I walked towards his direction, to his location. He was no longer on the dirt path. He was in the brush. And when I arrived there at the brush with Agent Dennison, I observed a motionless little boy as well.
Officer Dennison discovered another body of a motionless little boy, who was later identified as Dominic. The officer described the heart-wrenching scene as he saw the lifeless body of a 1-year-old lying on the ground.
What you saw?
Of course. Little brown booties, little brown boy booties, blue jeans that were covered in blood, freshly haircut, and what caught more of my attention was the way the body was positioned. He was placed. He wasn't thrown. He was placed. It's as if someone had placed him down.
Did you see any injuries to the baby?
Yes, lots of blood around the neck area, and that came down. I said again, blood on the blue jeans as well.
Okay. And you recognize this?
Yes, now I remember the T-shirt. Yes, sir.
Did you see any other injuries on the baby? How close were you to the baby?
Standing right over the body.
How many injuries did you observe on the baby at that time?
I only observed one,
And that was to
the neck area.
The clothes worn by Dominic were presented to Cortez, who immediately recognized them as the same ones he was wearing the day of the terrible tragedy. It is truly heartbreaking to watch the realization weighing on the officer while the father of the baby doesn't get fazed.
Agent Dennison was in front of you this whole
Yes,
time?
he was with me. Yes, yes, sir.
And you were with him when the shoe was found?
Yes, sir.
And what communication came over the radio that morning?
It was broadcasted. Possible suspect, Burgos. That was broadcasted over my P unit, portable unit.
What was your reaction at that time? But when you heard Burgos, what did that did it mean anything to you at all?
No, no, sir.
Did Dennison?
Dennison was in close proximity where he could hear the broadcast on my radio.
You have your radio.
Yes, sir.
The name Burgos comes out.
Yes, sir.
It means nothing to you.
No, no, sir.
Do you see a physical change in Agent Dennison?
Yes, sir.
To you, what do you see this physical change?
He was in shock.
Cortez also told the authorities that when he heard the conversation about Burgos being named as a suspect, Officer Dennison was in the area. His reaction, marked with a concerning familiarity, suggested that he was not shocked by the news, but rather that it felt all too normal in the circumstances they faced.
And you saw Mr. Burgos there at the scene as well?
I saw many of them, yes. But sitting here, I recognize him, yes.
And he appeared to be in shock as well as Agent Dennison, correct?
No,
That was not your impression?
no, no, sir.
So you're saying that he appeared to be normal to you?
Yes, sir.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
The officer disclosed a startling fact about Burgos. He showed no signs of shock or even remorse for what he did after he arrived on the scene. Now, this next case is the perfect example of how these cops abuse their powers.
He told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
On May 11th, 2017, a police corporal in the Fayette County town of Tyrone approached a parked pickup truck during a routine check. To his surprise, the driver behind the wheel was none other than State Senator Marty Harbin, known for his contentious support of the religious freedom measure from past years.
Our policy, over 30 days of expiration, we have to tow the vehicle.
You serious with me?
Yes, sir.
I'll call it. I won't call Eric Dial, but I'll call the rest of them. But I pay my bills. This will not go over well.
I can tell you, you can talk to everybody at the department. The car's going to be impounded.
The situation got rapidly out of hand, and when he was pulled over by another officer for driving with an expired tag. When he was told that his truck would be towed, he did not comply. The scenario became more intense because of his blatant attempt to use influence.
Because I'm going to take this, and I'm going to the state, and we're going to change the law.
You're not the only one this happens to. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but I'm just saying
it's not
the
like
law,
we're picking on you.
The law's wrong in that respect.
Okay.
And I'm not mad at
Well, that's
you.
what I mean. We can't change the law. I mean,
Well, I can't.
But that's you.
Harbin was shocked to learn that the police officers are able to confiscate cars for anything as little as an expired tag. To modify what he perceived to be an unduly severe punishment for a relatively trivial error, Harbin had introduced a bill aimed at allowing drivers to drive away from expired tag offenses.
It was moving in the fast lane.
Okay. Was there any movement into other lanes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about that.
The vehicle moved from the fast lane to the center lane at one point in time. And then from the center lane to the curb lane and then back to the fast lane. And then eventually exited the freeway, sir.
Okay. So when you were following the vehicle, it moved from the fast lane to the center lane to the curb lane, back to the center lane, back to the slow lane. Did I get that right?
Something like that, yes, sir.
Okay.
That'd be close.
Okay, so the vehicle changed lanes.
The vehicle did change lanes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And then the vehicle exited the freeway.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you remember speaking with me during an interview a little while back?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you gave me honest answers during that interview?
To the best of my recollection, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember me asking you about the vehicle's movement during that interview?
No, sir, I do. I remember you asking the question, but I don't remember exact particulars, sir.
Okay.
During a tense moment in the courtroom, the officer was asked who had stopped the senator. As the lawyer pressed him, it became clear that the cop's story wasn't holding up.
Do you recall me asking, when you were following the vehicle, did it stay in the same lane the whole time?
I know you asked numerous questions. That may have been one of them, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall your response?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Permission of the court, Your Honor, I would like to play the portion of my interview with Sergeant Pavis where I asked him whether the vehicle, when he was following it, if it stayed the same lane the whole time.
And Mr. Payne, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. That portion of the date, Mr. Moore.
Again, just going backwards a little bit.
Okay.
When you were following the pickup truck, did it stay in the same lane the whole time?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
When we got closer to
Okay. Did you hear that, Sergeant?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. So when I asked you, did the pickup truck stay in the same lane the whole time, your answer was yes, it did.
That is correct. That is my answer.
The lawyer skillfully exposed the lies in the officer's testimony by playing a video of the cop's previous interview regarding the incident in court.
And just before I played that, when I was asking you about whether the pickup truck stayed in the same lane while you were following it, you told me that it moved from the fast lane to the middle lane, to the slow lane, to the middle lane, to the slow lane. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. So, which was it?
When I was behind the vehicle, I was in the fast lane the whole time. And at some point in time, as I just mentioned to you, he did move from lane to lane, sir.
Okay. So you don't find anything inconsistent with what you told me here in court and what we talked about?
I could see where you would see that as an inconsistency, yes, sir.
Okay.
The officer was left completely speechless as the lawyer skillfully proved him a liar in court. Each pointed question seemed to damage his credibility, and by the end, he had nothing to say in his defense. This next cop was not owned by a lawyer, but by a judge.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is...
46-year-old Lisette Gonzalez was charged with DUI. However, it was discovered during her trial that the arresting officer had not used a breathalyzer test. The judge was outraged by this wrongdoing and instantly reprimanded him.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to null process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge. This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they... You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
So you're granting it because you don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the
granting
other
the JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion, the JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
Next, this disgraceful cop was caught intimidating an auditor inside a courtroom, only to be completely humiliated.
You told me this is a court that's got nothing to do with you. Starting there, we're going to be back and you're going to be going to jail.
A courtroom often becomes the worst place for a police officer to be, as their crimes are exposed for everyone to see. Today we'll be going through these cases where corrupt and evil police officers were owned in court, starting off with this tyrant who abused his authority.
Dude, the cop comes and totally treats me like a asshole.
In February of 2020, a First Amendment auditor, Derek, was peacefully sitting and observing the court proceedings in a Williams County courtroom when a court deputy came over and removed him.
What's going on?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, what's your business here today?
Oh, I'm going to look at court.
Just look at court?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, sitting in there.
Okay, well.
What are you sitting there for?
What am I sitting in there for?
That's why I'm asking.
You told me there was no court today.
This is a court that's got nothing to do with you.
Deputy Royce Crone began intimidating him without cause, treating him as if he had broken the law simply for sitting in a public courtroom.
So you're just wandering around sitting in a courtroom where you don't know anything that's going on?
Yeah, why can't you?
Huh?
What amendment is that? The Fourth Amendment?
I don't know if I'm not going to quote amendments.
So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to sit and watch.
And you're going to be civil. Because if you're not,
was I in there not being civil?
No, I'm just telling you what's
I'm
going to
telling
happen.
You.
No, I'm telling you what's going to happen.
I'm telling you what's going to happen.
No,
I'm in there.
I'm telling you what's going to happen.
Hey,
You're going to go in there, if you're going to go in there, you're going to be quiet. Go down here. Go down here.
Let's walk around this corner. Around the corner.
I had no problem with you being in there, but if you're starting there, we're going to be back and you're going to be going to jail.
Didn't I ask you
do you understand what I said? Do you understand what I said?
I asked
do you understand what I said?
I asked you if there was court today and you told me no.
This is a civil trial.
It doesn't matter what it is. I can go in there. That's why there's benches. You can go see it.
It's not your business.
The deputy has no shame whatsoever as he makes up laws on his own. His aggressive demeanor is only about to worsen as he realizes that the auditor is also well versed in the law.
You can go see it.
It's not your business.
It's public,
It's
so
not
it is
your
my
business. So why did you go to every office?
Why can't I?
Huh?
What's the big deal?
Why is your
Why
problem?
can't I?
Why are you
Because people don't normally do that. They don't come in here and go to everybody's places.
walk all over the place for no reason at all?
I'm not most people. I'm going in
I'm
there,
finding that out.
and I asked you if there was court today, and you told me no.
Right, there is
Because
no
I like
court.
to go in my not a lot and go watch court.
Yes,
So in
I
this
have
court
occasion.
session, for what?
I want to see your
For
identification.
what law?
I want to see your identification.
What?
I'm
For
asking
what?
you as a peace officer for some ID, so I know what I'm
For
talking.
coming and seeing?
No, because
My-
you're in
look,
my building.
My name's Derek, and this is our building.
I need your information.
It's our building.
Derek, let's not, okay, I'm gonna, security here, right? We've had security concerns in the past, okay? That's what we have. You're right, it is public, okay? But when you're going from room to room, that's unusual, okay?
The corrupt officers once again try to use the classic officer safety excuse to deny someone exercising their constitutional right. Shockingly, the deputy had even lied earlier, claiming that court was not in session.
We're investigating a suspicious act in a government building, okay? So if you ask for identification, you do have to provide it, okay?
Okay, and why? I don't understand. Like, I go in there and you pull me out when I'm legally okay to go in
We're
there.
checking to see what's going on. We're investigating.
I'm legally fine to go in there
Yeah,
and
but
watch
we want
court.
to make sure
You
that
pull me out?
we're
Really?
just seeing what your intentions are and what's going on.
For a legally okay act. I don't, they're not, no, it's not suspicious.
It is to me.
Me and you don't have the same options of what's suspicious. What's suspicious to me is you pull me out of court when I'm in there
What's
watching,
suspicious to me?
not being loud. Sir, I let you talk. No, you're not going to shush me. I let you talk. I'm in there watching court and you have me come out here so they can run my ID. I'm in court and I'm sitting and being civil, not making any noise. And I asked you downstairs, was there court today? You told me no. And then you're like, well, it's none of your business. It's public. So it is my business. I can go in there and I can watch.
Derek wasn't going to be an easy target for sure, as he continued to grill the deputies who had violated his rights by removing him from a court without the judge ordering them to.
We have security concerns in here. People just don't walk around.
I'm not most people.
I'm talking now. Remember, it's my turn. Most people don't talk, don't walk around and go to every office and checking out everything. That is not a normal thing to be done. That is suspicious to me. That's why these gentlemen are here. All right? This is a civil trial. You have no reason really to be in there. There's no reason to be in
any courtroom.
Okay?
Watching what's going on.
You're giving me an attitude whenever I ask you something. You might start something in there. I've got a full place full of
I'm
people.
sitting there being civil and quiet so that your security concerns goes right out the window. I don't understand what your problem is.
You're in my building.
This is our building. This is a public building, not your building.
It's my building.
Public, it's not your building. It is not your building. So quit saying it's my building.
You're in my building.
It's not your building.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm security here. It's my building.
It's not your building.
I'm responsible for this building.
Okay, and when I came
checking on
in,
anybody that's suspicious.
and I'm not suspicious, you are suspicious. Treat me like a criminal when I'm not.
The situation was getting heated, and the poor auditor had every right to be frustrated, as he had been done in by these tyrants who didn't know the law.
Let's go downstairs.
Let's go public
Let's
right
go
now.
downstairs.
All right, let's go.
All right, let's go.
10-4, thank you.
Come on, downstairs.
For what?
Huh? Sworn in in this court.
Well,
This is a county building.
Okay, and it's public. We know
If
that.
you're not here for court and they don't want you here, they can do that.
If you're trespassing, they can do that. I'm committing a crime. I'm not committing a crime. I like to go to court and
it's
watch.
but our building, their building, whatever. If they don't want you here, they can be like, time to go.
For if you commit, it's like trespassing. If I commit,
You don't have to commit a crime. You don't have to.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Still a county building.
So if they want you gone, then you have to leave.
The problem is I didn't do anything.
Right.
I gave you my ID and I was nice. He's more than rude, and you guys are very nice. And I just want to go in there. I want to sit and not like I was. Was I doing anything wrong? I was just sitting in there watching. That I'm okay to do.
Right.
The officers disrespected him and were straight up lying to his face. Now this happens when unchecked authority goes to their head. They think they can say anything and get away with it.
But you're at the point where, like I said, he's the head of this building, so what he says, you kind of got to do it. Okay?
So let's get your boss then. Let's get your boss then.
Let's go downstairs.
Is your boss? We're going to go talk to your
Let's
boss.
go downstairs.
We'll go downstairs and figure it out there, okay?
Take the stairs for us.
My boss, my sergeant, is not here today. That's their fault. I am in charge right now.
All right.
Okay?
So I was up there not doing anything wrong. As you know, I don't have that. If you're like, hey, you need it, I don't need help. They ran my stuff, nothing came back. It tells you that I'm not a criminal. I've never been to court for stuff other than watching stuff in Minot. That's why when I ask, hey, is there any court going on? You're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see the building. I'm from Minot. I'm not from Williston, so let me see the building. That's what I was doing.
The deputies were now adamant about kicking him out of the building. It is bizarre how these cops still have no clue about public and private buildings and how they behave.
So if I got loud, I apologize, but we know that I can go in that courtroom, I can sit there and watch what's going on. It's public record. It's not
My concern
secretive.
is that you've gone to every...
That's fine, because I'm asking
every
questions.
hallway, every office, places where I couldn't see you, and you were there for a while.
And I'm asking questions. Yeah, you're fine.
All right?
You're absolutely
I'm
okay.
asking questions. You're saying that you have no business here, you just want to sit.
Why can't we sit in the court? I'm just watching. That's all I'm doing.
When I first approached you and asked you about this, you copped an attitude with me.
No, I
guess
not. I
you
kind of looked at you and didn't cop
No,
it.
you
And
copped
I
an
apologize.
attitude. All right?
And I went up there and I was sitting and I was like, okay, well,
I'm going to
it's
give you an
done.
option, all right? You go up there, you can sit.
Okay.
I'm going to be up, it's going to be on camera, all right? I'll be watching. If I get any hint, any slight hint that there's going to be a problem, you will be out of here. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Although he allowed him back into the courtroom to watch the proceedings, his rude tone needed to be addressed. However, getting held accountable for anything just sets this tyrant off.
Are you not used to talking to people?
Oh, I'm used to talking to people. I've been here for over 20 years, man. I know about talking to people.
Did I cuss at you?
Huh?
Did I cuss at you?
Did I cuss at you?
You just said the F word.
Or you want to start, the way I talk, then you can just leave. If you're going to have a problem with the way I talk, then you can just leave.
Am I being unreasonable here?
Gentlemen, let him out of here.
Am I being unreasonable?
Okay. Yeah, like we said, you got your ID? Brett, you got his ID?
Yeah, back home.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to have to escort you out, but you got to go, man. Okay?
Get your lieutenant, or where can I go?
My lieutenant?
Chief, whoever it is. I did nothing wrong.
Okay.
I was in here just looking around, which is public property. I can do.
Well, this is my sergeant. You want to talk to him? You can talk to him.
I'm the supervisor on the
Okay, and I never got an attitude with him. You've seen the way he's acting with me. I was not rude.
Shockingly, instead of upholding the law, the officers also followed Deputy Crone's lead and asked the auditor to leave the building.
I can go up there and watch court, and I can sit there and be quiet, and that's what I was doing.
But as head of security of the building here, if he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave. Listen to me.
Go ahead.
If he thinks the actions are suspicious, he wants to leave, and you don't have a legitimate purpose other than to watch, I'm going to ask you to leave. That being said, if you do wish to file a complaint, there are options for that. It would be
where's the suspicion? Can you show me what is suspicious on a piece of paper?
I've already explained to you why it's suspicious. Okay. You come into a government building and you walk through.
Public
still a government building.
But it's still public property.
It's still government building. Okay. You go through security checkpoint and get in everything. Okay. And you start going through offices where we have attorneys, important paperwork, lawyers, everything like that here in this building.
It is concerning to see how much authority Crone seems to think that he has. He has never been held accountable, and it's time that someone takes action and files a complaint.
What is, let's go to public property, right on the sidewalk, because I want to talk to you guys more. What is his fucking problem? And now I'm going to use my freedom of speech here, because come on, guys. We know that I can go in there and look. I'm from Minot. I'm not from Williston, so there's nothing, suspicious about me walking through. I even asked the lady, what's the difference between municipal and district? And I asked him, hey, is there any court today? In her office, and he told me no.
Yeah.
If he said, yeah, there's court on the third floor, okay, then I'm going to go to court on the third floor and sit there and watch like I was doing.
I mean, there's no city court today. Maybe that's kind of the side of that. But either way, I understand. Yes, you can do court. But I just want you to see my point when I say this is suspicious activity, okay? It's unusual. We don't have that usually.
Of course you don't.
Yeah, so that's why we're checking on it.
Yes, of course.
Derek had been respectful throughout the altercation, but seeing how things turned out for him, he had every reason to hurl profanities. It is really tough to handle a tyrant like Crone when they violate your right.
You see, he just said, come on, guys, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
So now I'm going to go get my camera and I'm going to sit here on public property, which we know I can do, and record in there. Because this is public property. So if he gets an attitude with it, let's be real here. It is public property. This is public. This is public property.
Right.
I was doing nothing. Like, this is my problem, right, guys? You ran my ID. I've never done anything wrong. I've never stolen, never done nothing. And when he treats me like I don't want to use the cuss words. Excuse me, a criminal. Come on, what is that? And I understand. Hey, I understand. It's also suspicious for somebody to walk around on a public public street and record your house. But there's nothing against the law to do that.
Now, it is a shame that this auditor seems to know more about the law than someone who has been in the job for over 20 years. Although the officers seem to agree with him on most things, they did not dare say a word against their senior.
If you're not I can't go into your yard and record into your window when you're naked. We know the law, the camera law.
Right.
But
now, that being said, if your actions do arrest or annoy, that can be disorderly conduct.
Yeah.
There are.
But it's all disorderly. Yeah. And if you're just sitting there,
I'm gonna move to this point for you, okay, my man? Because like I understand where you're coming from. I really do.
I almost want to cry here. I was at Walmart in Minot, right? They were like, "Give me your ID." I said, "No, or not my ID, but let me see your receipt." I said, "No, I paid for my stuff." They're like, "No, you didn't. You stole." Well, we're going to call the police. Okay. Like you said, you want my ID, I have no problem giving it to you. I don't know if it's going to like open up some can of worms where I can't go on a flight. I don't know. I've only heard, but I don't know. But you know what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, the cop's going to come. He's not going to give me a problem. Dude, the cop comes until he treats me like a asshole. Like, oh, they know you stole. And for me, it's like, oh, you know, and I know you guys are just doing your job, but it didn't help. And I'm going to do this ever broke a law.
I can't speak for Minot PD. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Derek continued his painful rant, and he was rightfully pissed off at the deputy's behavior. It's reckless officers like this who burden their cities with costly lawsuits.
Right.
To be treated like him, and I'm not going to go, oh, well, let me go and file a claim. What's that going to do? At the end of the day, though, whatever. That's my view on it now. And when you say, and I hate when people go, oh, I know how you feel. You do not know how I feel. You do not know how I feel. I don't know how you feel. You deal with criminals all day. You deal with some innocent people. So it's like I don't want to go off on tangents, but you know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't like, well, I'm not giving you. I wasn't like that. If I was like that, I could have been like, I couldn't see you guys going, okay, well, we're going to do this. I mean, you know, I don't know. Should I go talk to a lawyer right now and be like, hey, I was in the court down there. They told me there's no court, and then they had me escorted out for no reason. You know, I'll sue him. I don't care.
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
I mean,
you can. It's.
You want to file a complaint?
We're supposed to protect. Why is it that I've had 2 interactions with police in Minot, or not Minot, but North Dakota, and it seems like the protect and serve thing goes right out the window. You're not supposed to protect and serve one person. I thought you're supposed to protect and serve 2.
It is great to see an auditor taking a stand for himself against these corrupt officials. Once again, the officer tries to lie about the encounter, but Derek immediately shuts him down and keeps delivering his fiery speech.
All right, like I said, I'm just gonna get my camera and set it up here and try to get a camera of him.
Okay.
And
Just don't one thing.
No, and I didn't talk to him.
No,
like,
and listen to me. If confrontation happens, just call the police department.
Yeah.
Don't get confrontational.
No, I didn't, and that's why I walked. I walked away.
And I know you didn't. I'm just telling. I just don't want you to.
I know.
Because
what? Yeah, and like I said, I know I said you were going to do a job. And I understand you have to. You say, oh well, it's suspicious to this. Okay, it might be suspicious for people to talk to themselves. People that talk to themselves think it's just fine. Yep. I understand you're just doing your job.
Yep. Like I said, we don't know what you were doing
checking on you.
Yeah.
And now we know.
Yep. And hey, for him to go, oh well, we want you, dude. He's not going to sit and treat me like I don't want to cuss, but I know it's my right to do so.
Yeah.
He's not going to treat me like a f***ing asshole and expect me just to sit there and take it from him. I'm an adult. He is not my dad. I'm not his kid. If I'm his kid, he can talk to me like that.
Right.
He is not going to treat me like that, and it's not fine. It's not okay. He was out of line. I wasn't out of line. I have a hard time with if somebody's yelling at me with being quiet, and that's why I couldn't.
Like we can tell you're frustrated right now. We totally
I didn't
understand.
do anything. I just went in there to watch a court, which I can do by law.
Shortly after, the auditor left the courthouse, but only to file a lawsuit against the officers and Deputy Crone. He has since hired a lawyer, and the lawsuit is underway. Well, this deputy made a joke out of himself, but this next cop was rightfully punished and sentenced in court.
As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270.
Police officer Derek Chauvin was arrested and charged with the murder of George Floyd, an incident that sparked worldwide protests and riots. During the trial, another officer who had previously pulled over Floyd was called to testify.
You were the officer who approached the passenger side of the vehicle. You approached George Floyd on May 6th of 2019, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And you had your gun drawn when you approached Mr. Floyd, isn't that right?
Yes, I pulled it, yes.
And when you approached Mr. Floyd, he said, "Don't shoot me, man, I don't want to get shot," right?
Something like that, yes.
You told him to undo his seatbelt, correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
And he did that, right?
Yes, he did.
And then you said, "Put your hands where I can see them," correct?
Yes.
And then he put his hands in the air?
Yes,
And then you told him to put his hands on the dash, is that right?
that's correct.
And that was when you grabbed his hand and forcibly put it on the dashboard of the vehicle, correct?
Fallen, yes.
And you had your gun drawn the whole time you were giving commands, right?
Once I started ordering him and he refused to show me his hands, yes, eventually it escalated where I pulled my gun, yes, ma'am.
And he was awake, correct?
What's that, ma'am?
Mr. Floyd was awake. Was he awake during this incident?
Yes.
While you were interacting with Mr. Floyd, he didn't collapse on the ground, correct?
Wait a minute, what was the question? Can you speak up a little louder, ma'am?
While you were interacting with Mr. Floyd, he didn't collapse on the ground, correct?
No, he did not.
Well, the answer is stricken. The objection is sustained.
You were asked some questions about what the other officers were doing, correct?
That's correct.
Your attention was focused on Mr. Floyd, correct?
Yes, it was.
And Mr. Floyd didn't drop dead while you were interacting with him, correct?
No.
The officer did not have much to say. Finally, after a long trial, the judge was ready to announce Chauvin's sentence. But first, he had a message for everyone in the courtroom.
I've read all the impact statements that were submitted earlier and listened carefully to all the input here today. And it is truly appreciated that you took the time to stay with this case and to provide me with input. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation and carefully considered all the facts of the case and the law, but my comments are actually going to be very brief because most of it's going to be in writing. I have a 22-page memorandum that is going to be attached to the sentencing order. And why am I doing it in writing? To emphasize the fact that determining the appropriate sentence in any case, and in this case, is a legal analysis. It's applying the rule of law to the facts of an individual and specific case. And that is why, as opposed to trying to being profound here on the record, I prefer that you read the legal analysis that explains how I determined the sentence in this case.
The judge assured everyone that the sentence is not based on any pressure or opinion from the public and was strictly according to the law.
It has been painful throughout Hennepin County, throughout the state of Minnesota, and even the country. But most importantly, we need to recognize the pain of the Floyd family. I'm not going to attempt to be profound or clever because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases.
Finally, the judge laid the sentence, which ensured that the tyrant officer would never be able to see a day out of prison.
Mr. Chauvin, as to count one, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2 paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentence for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You are prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis.
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody is currently holding him.
Moving on, this officer did the unthinkable in front of the judge and was immediately held accountable. Cops are often protected by qualified immunity after breaking the law. However, today we bring you cases of crooked and corrupt police officers who made some huge mistakes and were instantly owned in the courtroom. In December of 2012, suspect Anthony Waller was brought in front of a judge after he was sentenced on assault charges. As he tried to speak to the judge, the officer holding him did something terrible, taking the law into his own hands.
Investigation for false imprisonment, assault in the third degree, assault as a class 2 felony, and a misdemeanor charge as well in possession of drug paraphernalia.
I'd like to object first. If I'm under investigation, I thought the investigation came first, then the rest came.
Get on your feet. Don't turn on me. Get on your feet. Get on your feet.
Deputy Brady Lovingair assaulted the poor man and pushed him onto the ground before taking him to jail. However, his actions were found unlawful and he was suspended from his job. He eventually resigned from the position. Meanwhile, Waller was awarded $50,000 in compensation by a federal jury. Now, while this cop made a mistake in court, this next tyrant officer was punished for something more sinister.
The court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270.
In May of 2020, Officer Derek Chauvin knelt on the neck of poor George Floyd, eventually causing his death. This led to massive protests all over the world and also the start of the BLM movement. Officer Chauvin was then charged and eventually found guilty of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter.
I wanted to thank everybody for being here and for providing the input you did. Not just the people who were in the courtroom here, but also those who provided written statements, both from the Floyd family and the defendant's family. I've read all the impact statements that were submitted earlier and listened carefully to all the input here today. And it is truly appreciated that you took the time to stay with this case and to provide me with input. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation and carefully considered all the facts of the case and the law, but my comments are actually going to be very brief. Most of it's going to be in writing. I have a 22-page memorandum that is going to be attached to the sentencing order. And why am I doing it in writing? To emphasize the fact that determining the appropriate sentence in any case, and in this case, is a legal analysis. It's applying the rule of law to the facts of an individual and specific case. And that is why, as opposed to trying to being profound here on the record, I prefer that you read the legal analysis that explains how I determined the sentence in this case.
Now, high-profile cases like these must be handled carefully in order to set a strong precedent for the future. The judge reminded everyone that emotions do not play any part in the sentencing.
What the case is, or what the sentence is not based on, is emotion or sympathy. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge the deep and tremendous pain that all the families are feeling, especially the Floyd family. You have our sympathies. And I acknowledge and hear the pain that you are feeling. I acknowledge the pain not only of those in this courtroom, but the Floyd family who are outside this courtroom and other members of the community. It has been painful throughout Hennepin County, throughout the state of Minnesota, and even the country. But most importantly, we need to recognize the pain of the Floyd family.
Derek stood there listening, without a trace of shame on his face. It was clear he felt no remorse for his action.
I'm going to attempt to be profound or clever, because it's not the appropriate time. I'm not basing my sentence also on public opinion. I'm not basing it on any attempt to send any messages. A trial court judge, the job of a trial court judge is to apply the law to specific facts and to deal with individual cases.
Finally, after a short speech, the judge handed over the much-awaited sentence, which brought some sort of peace to Floyd's family and the people that were hurting all over the country.
Mr. Chauvin, as to count 1, based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony under Minnesota Statute 609.19 subdivision 2 paren 1, it is the judgment of the court that you now stand convicted of that offense. Pursuant to Minnesota Statute section 609.04, counts 2 and 3 will remain unadjudicated as they are lesser offenses of count 1. As sentenced for count 1, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd.
Chauvin was also required to register as a predatory offender as his life came crashing down after being sentenced to 22.5 years in prison.
You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You are prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis. Anything further from the state?
If this needs to be said, we just ask that it be executed forthwith.
Defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff to be transported back to the DOC or whichever custody is currently holding him. Anything for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Chauvin was sent to Oak Park Heights Prison, and in 2024, he was stabbed 22 times by another inmate. However, he is expected to make a full recovery. While Derek was punished, here is another corrupt cop who did the unthinkable and was punished in court.
In the unclassified felony of armed criminal action, I sentence you to a term of incarceration of 6 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections.
In December of 2019, 26-year-old Cameron Lamb was sitting in his car inside his garage when Officer Eric DeVolcanair and murdered him.
Cameron Lamb is dead. And Eric DeVolcanair. That's undisputed. Cameron Lamb was by all accounts a helpful and loving son, brother, father, and friend. People who have contacted me and who I have heard from today have described him as funny, caring, giving. Miss Gray called him a protector, a jokester, and my favorite of all the ones that I read, not a saint, but our angel.
Cameron Lamb was trying to chase his girlfriend, but halfway he changed his mind and he headed back home. The officers should have de-escalated the situation, but these tyrants were only focused on ending his life.
Also, as I'm weighing all these facts, it can't be overlooked that the events of December 3rd of 2019 were initially set into motion by Cameron Lamb and his decision to chase his girlfriend through city streets at dangerously high speeds, putting motorists and other members of the public at risk. However, those events tragically concluded with the actions of Troy Schwam and the defendant pulling up to defendant's house, Sergeant Schwam pulling into the driveway, immediately getting out with his weapon drawn, rapidly moving, without taking a breath, without pausing for the briefest of moments to consider where they were going, what they would find when they got back there, whether they were acting lawfully in doing so. That is made even more aggravating as the court considers an appropriate sentence in this case by the fact that the one person who ultimately did take a breath that morning was Cameron Lamb.
DeVolcanair was in civil clothes and had entered his property without notifying him. It only then took him 9 more seconds to fire his gun and kill Lamb on the spot.
He did this when at some point, while he was chasing his girlfriend, he decided to discontinue the chase and to go home.
Cameron Lamb is not racing through the streets of his neighborhood at this point. He's not driving through yards to get away from anyone. He does not abandon the truck and let it roll into someone's yard while he flees on foot. Rather, he simply pulls into the driveway of his home, pulls around back, puts the vehicle into reverse, and slowly begins backing it down the driveway, under the carport, and into his garage.
The officer had no remorse on his face, and to make matters worse, the judge even tried to side with him, claiming that he did not intend to murder him.
And it is hard to accept this distinction. I know that. Murder and involuntary manslaughter arising from criminal negligence are two different things. They are different legal concepts. They are different things. Eric DeValconaire is not Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd. Eric DeValconaire is not one of the 3 men in Georgia convicted of running down and Ahmaud Arbery. This is a mitigating factor. Defendant has no prior criminal history. His ORAS scores him as a low risk in all categories. Defendant's history as a police officer, husband and father, friend and colleague is also a mitigating factor that I have taken into account, as his father asked me to do, which I was already going to do, and that is to consider the totality of the circumstances and to consider the totality of the defendant's life.
Judge Dale Youngs appeared to extend some level of courtesy to the police officer, with the Kansas City Police Department also backing their officer.
The facts and the circumstances in the history of defendant's career and his life that have been presented to this court have demonstrated he has not hesitated to immediately take action when he believed the circumstances surrounding him warranted it. And this trait has generally served him and others well. It also failed him, as it did on December 3rd of 2019.
Finally, the judge announced the sentence, and sadly, it was nothing more than a slap on the wrist.
Cameron Lamb is dead. Eric DeValconaire, and the court has found that that happened because the defendant acted without considering or being aware of the substantial and unjustifiable risks associated with his conduct, and that his actions were a gross deviation from the standard of care that a reasonable person would exercise in the situation. DeValconaire, on count 1, the Class E felony of involuntary manslaughter in the 2nd degree, I sentence you to a term of incarceration in the Missouri Division of Adult Institutions of 3 years. On the unclassified felony of armed criminal action, I sentence you to a term of incarceration of 6 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections. Those cases, or rather those counts and sentences, will run concurrent with one another for a total term of incarceration of 6 years.
DeValconaire was sentenced to 6 years in prison for brutally murdering an innocent man. Shockingly, in December of 2024, the sentence was commuted, and he is expected to be out of prison soon. Now, while this officer got lucky, this next tyrant was rightfully sentenced after doing something bizarre.
Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days.
In 2019, Fort Worth police officer Aaron Dean was called to a residence where he fatally shot the homeowner, Atiana Jefferson, from her bedroom window. He was found guilty of manslaughter. The judge did not take long to announce his sentence.
Y'all did fabulous when we did the guilt-innocence verdict, okay? Same rules apply. I don't know what this verdict is. Can't have any emotions, all right? Let's bring him in. Okay. Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days. They do not assess a fine. And it is signed by the presiding juror. You may be seated. Thank you very much.
Miss Jefferson was carrying no weapons whatsoever and was coming to answer the door when the tyrant cop pulled the trigger.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 3, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 6, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 9, is this your verdict? Juror number 37, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 38, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your verdict will be received and filed. Thank you very much. Mr. Gill, Mr. Brissett, is there any legal reason why sentence should not be pronounced? No legal review. Mr. Dean, it's the jury having found you guilty of the offense of manslaughter and assessed this punishment. It's the order of the court you be remanded to the custody of the sheriff, be delivered to the director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve your sentence as required by law. You will receive credit for all the time that you have served in custody on this case from the date of your original arrest.
Dean was immediately kicked out of the job and now faced a prison sentence of 11 years.
If you are indigent and cannot afford a lawyer, I would conduct an indigency hearing to determine if you are indigent. And if you are indigent, I would appoint a lawyer to represent you on appeal and provide you a record of this appeal of this trial at no cost. Mr. Gill, Mr. Brissett, if y'all will remain on this case pending his decision whether he wishes to appeal, and if you'll furnish the information for the trial court certification of appeal before you leave here today, I would appreciate it. Is there an allocution? Yes. You may be seated. Thank you very much.
As of today, he continues serving his sentence in jail and is unlikely to receive any relief. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Today we witnessed cases where corrupt and abusive police officers were humbled and held accountable in courtrooms. These tyrants made grave mistakes and were rightfully punished. Each of these thugs received the sentencing they deserved and will surely think twice before repeating their actions. If you agree with me, please support us by liking this video. Also, if you enjoyed the video, watch how these psycho Karens took on some no-nonsense cops.
Don't you kick me!